Good evening, everybody.
Hi, could we have some caption? Could we have some sound?
Can you hear us, Councillor McGovern and others on Teams?
Yes, I can now. That's Ace. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to everyone for attending this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Performance Panel on Thursday, the 2nd of October 2025. As you all know, my name's Councillor Arjun Singh and I'll be chairing this meeting today. So please be nice to me. When speaking, please do not obstruct your mouth to enable lip reading or the use of closed captions. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm sounds, please exit the way you came in. Please ensure that all mobile phones are switched to silent. Do we need brief introductions? Are we okay with everybody here? Yeah, happy to skip that bit. Apologies received.
Thank you, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillor Deborah Platt and also the Executive Cabinet members, Councillor Bradley, Councillor Lowe and Councillor Hilton. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 1, declarations of any interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. Does anyone have any interest to declare? No. Thank you. Number 2, minutes of the last meeting, held on Thursday the 3rd of July 2025, pages 3 to 8 of your agenda. The draft minutes are in front for approval. We can confirm that all the actions have been completed from the last meeting. Are there any issues from the minutes? No. Do we have a proposal and a seconder? Thank you. Is that okay?
And then you can just take a raise your hands to confirm.
Can take a vote, show of hands, if that's okay. Yeah, thank you. We're all agreed on the minutes of an accurate record. Number 3, Chorley Quarter 1 Performance Monitoring Report, pages 9 to 48. Councillor Peter Wilson, Executive Member for Resources, will present this, supported by Councillor Murray, an Executive Member, and Councillor Terry Harrith, Executive Member. If you can present the report, Peter, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Can you hear me clearly there?
Loud and clear, Peter.
Lovely, thank you very much. Apologies for not being there in person, but I'm just full of a cold at the minute, so I don't want to infect members. So I'd like to report the quarter 1 performance. Just go through the headlines first to make sure the overall performance of the key projects is good, with 90% of the projects either rated as green or complete. Of the indicators and targets, we've got 64% of the corporate strategy measures and 83% of the key service measures are performing again on or above target. So the highlights of that in terms of the projects, we've made good progress with the local plan. That's now with the planning inspectorate. We've introduced and rolling out the destination management plan. We have implemented a targeted jobs and skills programme with the UK SPF funding. The cost of living action plan has been refreshed, and we've also launched the Chorley Together in June during Volunteer Week, which supported VCFS engagement, so a number of people attending and groups attending those events. In terms of targets hit or exceeded, we've done a lot of work in prevention of homelessness and in stopping people becoming homeless in the first instance, which is, of course, crucial in tackling homelessness. We've had 203 businesses engaged by the council, exceeding the target of 150. We've got 148% increase in the average improvements in wellbeing score against a target of 70%. The number of households living in fuel poverty. Again, we can see the performance there is well below the target of the North West average. So again, we're doing better than the overall region. Our overall employment rate in Chorley is at 83.6%, which is again performing much higher than the North West average of 73.7%. And planning performance has remained strong with 100% of major applications and 99% of minor applications decided on time. And finally, both council tax and business rates have exceeded targets in terms of collection rates thus far this year. So there's the sort of highlights, Chair. If I may turn to areas where we are not on target or where we have highlighted issues of delay or problems. Of the two projects that are rated as green, they are rated as amber. So the first is improve the effectiveness of social housing operations. This is the issue around select move and the system, the computer system is used to actually, for the allocations process, which has not been functioning as it should. And I know that although Preston have taken a lead on this, that we are working collectively to try and address this issue and make sure that it is resolved as quickly as possible. The other project which is rated as amber is the renovations to the West Wing of Asset Hall. And again, there was a delay there, mainly around staffing. Instead of the person dealing with that had left the organisation, there was also sickness absence involved with people who were covering. That is now being dealt with, so we expect the contractors to be appointed in cabinet, in the cabinet, so that should be 2 to 4 weeks once they are appointed to get in and start work. So starting in early January and still aiming to complete by April 26th, so we're back on time. For the concern, Chair, just as the indicators that are off track and again rated as amber, we can see there the number of long-term empty properties in the borough. It's slightly off there. We've got a target of 150. In quarter one, it was 152. There has been work being done in that field, and I know that as of mid-September of this year, that number is down to 147, so we are just back under the target. So clearly a number of 150 is still low, than what it used to be, but at the end of quarter one we were slightly above. As I can say, we've now brought that back down, so that should be reported in the next quarterly report. The other item rated as amber is the supply payments within 30 days. See there for quarter one, it's rated at 93.75% against a target of 95%. And what we've seen is within the quarter, that has fluctuated. So in April, we were down at 92%. By May, we exceeded the 95% target. And then in June, it dipped just below the 95% target. So it leaves that average of 93.75. What I would like to add there, Chair, is that there is significant efforts to make sure we hit this target, but it is also worth adding that the vast majority, the majority of invoices are actually paid within 10 days, not just 30. So I don't want people thinking that we leave it till right towards the end before we then pay our invoices, and then there's a mad dash to hit the 30-day target. A significant number, in fact, the majority, are paid a lot quicker than that. And sometimes there are good reasons why there's a delay in payments as well. But I'm sure that the finance team will push everyone across the council to make sure we stay on track with that. The other areas where we are, the other area where we are rated amber is the percentage of household waste sent for recycling, composting or reusing. That is a current performance of 41.8% against the target of 43. We have seen recycling rates fall nationally, so there's probably a trend that's a bit more, a bit more room on the wider footprint than just Chorley. However, some of that it believes is down to people, the lack of education and lack of actual encouragement for the recycling. So again, there is another programme that's being rolled out by Lancashire County Council, the Simpler Recycling campaign to actually encourage residents to think about recycling and make sure there's not cross-contamination. And try and help us increase those that performance. There are some areas, Chair, some indicators where we are rated as red, and I'll just touch on those for right now. The first is the number of jobs created, or the number of projected jobs created through the borough, in the borough through council support and intervention. And we can see that the target of 50 is actually currently at 29. So we are in Q1, and some of this performance in Q1 reflects the fact that there was the pause in the grant funding programmes at the end of the last quarter in Q4 of the previous year, and that of course meant that we didn't have certainty over the UK SPF budgets, and therefore we weren't able to put these programmes in place. So of course that impact is being felt now. That has actually been that put through now, so we do expect that to pick back up. And also the contract with Boost, the Lancashire Growth Hub, that also concluded in March. And again, there's been alternative sorts and different ways of doing it, but again, that's had an impact in Q1. So obviously concerned that we're off track, but hopefully we'll see that pick up now that the new measures are in place. The second measure where we are red is the percentage of 16 to 17-year-olds who are not in education, employment, or training. And again, we can see there that surely is we are off target, and we are higher than the Lancashire average and the North West average, which of course is concerning. And as a consequence of that, what we're looking for is some work and detailed work focused on surely to actually make sure that we address those, get to the root cause of that, and actually sort of try and turn that trend around. And we've got the point of the first KIP Foundation, which is funded by UK SPF, who engage with legal people on a bespoke sort of one-to-one level, and actually sort of look at their aspirations and goals and how do we get them into employment or education or training. And that will actually hopefully be more, well, not just more focus for us, but actually give us more understanding as well, which I think is important. To understand what the barriers are, understand where the problems lie, then we can seek to address it. So we're looking for that scheme to have some reap some rewards for us. And the last area, Chair, where we are red is the number of customers that are satisfied with the service they receive from the council. Now that target is at 80%, and we are currently just over 75%. Now the original target last year was 70%, so and I think members are quite right to raise that as an issue as well. We should sort of stretch further to improve service delivery and the customer satisfaction as a consequence. So we have done that. We've increased it to 80. So the previous performance was 70% on target, and we've jumped up to 75. So it's still off our target of 70, but it shows the right direction of travel. So again, we're basing it the fact that we will continue to improve. We will continue to report back, obviously, if we don't, we need to understand why. But I'm hoping that actually we'll see that improve. We have to take a step in the right direction, which is still off target. But that, Chair, is a summary of the report, so I'm happy to pause at that point.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate you're not well, so I do appreciate you coming online to present that report. Thank you. Also, thank you, Caroline and Jennifer, for coming in attendance today. I now invite members to ask any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for a very comprehensive report. I've just one comment first, actually. I think there's an amazing amount of work that's gone into this, actually, and it's really good to see some of that improved, the improved trajectories that we've got, particularly when you're looking at the suppliers, etc. Although we're not quite there yet, it is really good to see that improved progress. And then obviously some quite comprehensive action plans around the ambers and the reds that we do have there. So I just had a couple of questions, really, focusing on NEETs and then that household waste for me this evening. So in terms of the NEETs, there is a significant action plan. We know it's an issue in Chorley. I'm just wondering whether we've got any insight into why Chorley is seems to be a bit of an outlier here, and what our confidence levels are in the action plans that we have. Is there some learning that we can do from other areas as well, I think, in addition to that? But I do recognise there's a lot going on in this area. And then the other one is around the waste issue, and you mentioned there that there's a national reduction in recycling levels, etc., which I just find quite astonishing, really. But I just wonder if there's any national thoughts on why that's happening, and again, if there's anything else we can learn from other areas on that.
Thanks for that. In terms of the needs, I think one of the problems we've had, and it's an historic one actually, which is over a couple of years that I remember needs being reported, we've always been traditionally one of the better areas. When I say better, I mean in terms of, better performing without issues, but never been one of the highest. And I suspect that as a consequence, a lot of work, a lot of the targeted programs that we're now talking about have been done in other areas, and we've all been left largely to sort of just tick over as we are. And therefore, I think perhaps that could be one of the explanations, or a contributory factor rather than the sole explanation. What we do see, Councillor Brown, you'll be aware of, is that they are also focused, the needs tend to orientate towards certain wards in the area, and certain communities, which we, again, we've referenced in the past, I think again is included in this discussion. And again, perhaps in terms of the learning, is there anything that we think is happening in our wards that's making that worse? Has there been more limited access to public transport? Because again, that's one of the key barriers that we find to people actually getting into work or getting into a training post is actually having physically made to be. I'm not sure, I'm not aware of anything staggeringly different, but we need to look at that. And I think the other thing about learning is exactly that, which is where we have seen areas struggle with the number of needs, and now their numbers aren't as bad. We look at what they've done, and I think that's one of these programs, particularly the one-to-one work, is something that has been sort of similar work has been done in other areas. So we're hoping it will take effect with us. In terms of the waste, yeah, it's a funny one. Obviously, Councillor Lowe's not here, but it is odd that the numbers sort of flatline and then actually, if anything, it dips. You would have thought these days there would be more awareness in the fact that people who used to do it and recycle and used to sort the different bins, that it could actually be business as usual. Obviously, we've got food waste coming in as well in March, so there's another sort of challenge in terms of changing people's pattern of behaviour. So, off the top of my head, again, I don't know if there's anything specific that we've been looking at or looking at in other areas or linking into even governments in terms of what they're doing to what's the word, not regather, sort of start again in terms of getting people's imagination going about recycling. I'm sure that others might be able to tell more about that. So I see Councillor Wills, I'm sure he'll tell you more about it, but I'm not sure what the root cause of that is.
Councillor Murray, do you want to?
Thank you, Chair. It was just to briefly mention about the needs. I think over the last couple of years, Lancashire County Council, who have got the statutory sort of role to deal with needs, have concentrated on East Lancashire, and perhaps that's sort of neglected our area. So when we've commissioned the First Kicks Foundation to do some work with needs, I think one of the targets is that they actually speak to 90% or try to speak to 90%, which obviously will give us better insight into what are the barriers, whether it is transport or whether it's lack of SEM places or caring responsibilities or just not knowing what's out there. And then obviously we can build on that, but it is essential that we do that work first, because we can all sit here and speculate on, we think it's this, that and other, but unless we actually know from the people that are experiencing it, we can't really move forward.
Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. So, I've got a few, just to probably build on a few things there. So, just on housing side of things, in terms of select move, have we got any dates or in terms of when we foresee that coming to fruition?
quick answer is we don't know exactly.
Yeah.
However, just to give you some of the background to what's been going on, things have been getting better over the last few months, but we are left with one problem. One of the frustrating things about this is that it's not down to our officers who are underperforming in any way. In fact, they're working harder because of the problem.
Yeah.
It's the link between the software experts, and this is a contracted out situation. Action has been taken. We've had countless meetings at different levels in the organisation. In fact, we were talking about this yesterday. From our level up to the director for IT, up to the chief executive, have all become involved in this. And that will be across the three authorities, South Ribble, Preston City Council and ourselves. This has led to more formal action, and I'll just actually list this. Legal action has been commenced in the sense that a formal letter has actually been sent out to the company involved. If the issues persist, it's been decided between the three councils that we will actually all meet as a body and get the software engineers together. There's also, from Preston City Council, a procurement exercise actually taking place. That's not easy because of the sophistication, the complexity of the software, but that is advancing, but there's not a lot to report on that at the moment, other than problems being sent back to us and how difficult the situation would be if suddenly the contract was terminated. The work goes on. The company are actually testing. We hope for better results, but it wouldn't be fair of me to raise anyone's expectation as regards. We hope it's going to be not too far away, but I don't want to commit too much.
Could I just follow up on that? So just in terms of the impact. So my understanding is that the impact is that people are still being tracked fairly. There might be, unfortunately, it might be giving the wrong impression in terms of where to ranking, but underneath all that, the officers are still making sure that people are tracked fairly in terms of getting the houses they deserve in terms of need. And the burden is really at the moment is our council, well, our officers are having to do extra work on top of that to manage the situation. So I just want to make, it's a concern for a number of residents in my ward, and I just want to make sure that, that my understanding is correct, that they're not being disadvantaged. It's just a work burden on our officers.
Yes, when problems arise, effectively the officers will, to want of a better term, sort it out manually and correct the situation. I don't know if...
Yeah, so what the problem is the scoring isn't right and it's not displayed correctly. So the scoring is done right, it's just not displayed right. So customers are seeing one score that isn't correct. So they might see that they're on place 10 when in fact they're actually on place 20, or they may see they're in position 1 when they're not, they're in position 50. So what has been happening is that both ourselves and the housing associations have been having to do it manually, which is a bit of a pain because it takes a long time, but it has been done fairly. So nobody actually has been disadvantaged in the fact that they've got houses that they should have got. So it's not that, it's more about the back office. It's taken a lot longer for us to make sure that everybody gets the right position. And for a customer, we have put on the screen at the front to say, please do not rely on your ratings on the screen. It will be done. And we just need you to understand that this is being corrected, but not to rely on that. So we have had quite a few customers who have contacted us to say, well, I was in position one, why have I not got the property? And we have that to be clear, it has been done fairly. Unfortunately, the display isn't correct on the system.
Assure residents when I speak to them and it's raised again, so that's good. Just in terms of needs, I'd just like to share support what Bev was saying in terms of identification. I think it's really important that we identify why they are choosing to go to do needs, because at the moment I'm trying to get in my ward, trying to do stuff where we can provide facilities, but if we don't understand why they're like that, it's trying to get them to come and all that sort of stuff. So I think it is really important that we do firstly understand why they are like that and where they are, and then devise our strategy around that afterwards. So yeah, I do support, and also do appreciate the fact that it's something where again Chorley's going above and beyond of what their responsibilities are on this, and doing more than they need to do. So yeah, I appreciate that. A couple of other points, just in terms of the household waste again. You've mentioned about it. I just wonder in terms of whether there's something we could do to work out, if we increased if we increased our collection by 1%, what would that mean in terms of cost to us by getting greater recycling rates, and if we could use that as part of our campaign, saying, look, by the way, if we increase more recycling, that will actually will benefit to residents by the fact that it will actually potentially reduce costs. I don't know if there's a link there or something we can do in terms of work out what the cost is for increasing by 1% or 2%.
See, I see where you're coming from there, Councillor Green, and I must admit I do agree. See if there's any way we can promote recycling and reusing and reducing. Obviously, if we can promote it any way possible, then all for it. So I don't know if any officers can come back to that, or anybody, or if we can come back at a later date looking at it after the meeting. Definitely, if that's something possible.
So there is actually ongoing work, well, at a county level and also within Chorley around educating people. So I know locally we've delivered sessions in primary schools, to obviously target young people. So, I think it's building it, isn't it, that into the education programme around those benefits. So I mean, I'm happy to pass that on to the director. Yeah, there's multiple messages, isn't there, that can be delivered.
Recycling rates in terms of if we can save money, then we can put that into other resources. I don't know, something worth considering, I think.
Well, I understand that there was quite a lot of education around this topic some years ago, and that's kind of dropped off. So I think we've missed quite a few younger generations who are now sort of young adults. So obviously they've picked that back up again in terms of the education. But as you say, there's multiple messages that obviously can be communicated as part of that programme. So happy to take that feedback back to the director.
That's great, thanks, Carol. And then the last one in terms of the Peter's mentioned about the number of projected jobs created through Chorley Council support and intervention. It's a red rating, and I've mentioned this before. It's a red from what I can understand, really, it's a red rating because it's outside of Chorley's council's control. But you haven't had the ESPS UK SPF funding come through, so because it hasn't come through in a timely manner, that impacts on us, and then that drives a red rating. I've mentioned it sometimes. I wonder if we could sort of I don't know, split it out so that it's showing that it's not really Chorley's fault. Some of these ratings, it just makes us look makes us look worse than actually what we are, and when we're dependent on a third party to be able to support our needs.
No, again, I think you're right there, Russ. Obviously, we haven't got the UK SPF funding. It's come a bit late, obviously. So I think, is there something we can add to the report? We can add a line in there or something just to state that fact, make sure it's clear there. That's okay.
Yeah, so just to obviously come in there, yeah, obviously that was one of the issues in terms of the funding coming late. So we're obviously had to start the programme a little bit later. And then also in terms of the delivery provider as well, there were some issues around that with obviously Boost no longer existing. Also, some of the work that we've been doing is around looking at our grants programme as well, which is reduced obviously because of the reduced funding around UK SPF. So we've tried to be much more targeted with our grants programme. So we were sort of like offering start-up and apprenticeship grants. To be honest, the take-up wasn't that great for that, but obviously they had the opportunity to create those employment opportunities, so that will have impacted obviously our ability to achieve some of those numbers. But obviously we will continue to work and it's yeah,
when it's not really your fault. So,
I mean obviously we've got some control over it in terms of obviously how we spend that funding, and I think in terms of understanding what businesses need, so it's making sure that we're out there talking to businesses, understanding what skills are required, what creating the right job opportunities. So that does happen, but there's so many factors, isn't there, that will influence ability to create jobs, and a lot of businesses are struggling, aren't they, with changes with national insurance, wages, cost increases, and it's just I suppose from an economic perspective, there's so many different factors I think that influence that, but we are delivering our programme.
Quick points in just terms of, I think I was really pleased to see just the, in terms of earnings that our residents are actually getting in the better off over the last few years, in terms of seeing where we are in terms of was it for England, the actual the figure is 732, and we're not too far off that now, in £720, and then looking against Lancashire 685. So actually there's some really positive news to see that our residents increasing their earnings and through the support Chorley Council's given. And I also would like to say well done to obviously Councillor Lowe with the bus shelters. I think that's made a massive difference in terms of to how Chorley looks as well. So it looks going around, they all look very professional and nice and tidy. So a couple of good things that I think we should pat ourselves on the back for there. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Councillor McGovern, have you got any questions for us?
Hello. Yes, I'm interested on page 18. Your corporate strategy indicated the number of projected jobs, and it's really just Peter, you answered my initial question, but I wanted to just check with you. I can see that the rating is red, but when you look at the profile of the bars, for each of the 3 completed years, most of the jobs have been created in the 4th quarter. So I might be wrong in interpreting it, so you can tell me. It looks as if we've exceeded our target in all 3 years. But in order to see that, you have to see what's happening in quarter 4, because it's 300 and we only need 200 in a year. So if I've interpreted that right, I just wondered about the whole idea of having a quarterly target like that, because your quarterly target seems to assume that you have the same number of jobs in each quarter, and it's clearly not when you look at the bars. So that's my first question. Now, I'll just add my second question, and then you can... The second question actually isn't about page 18. I think it's in the appendix, because it's page 27, and it's to do with the national and regional comparators. Now, I'm not sure that I can actually... I have a split screen here, so I'll just see if I can get to it, because obviously it helps when I'm talking about it. All right. So now it's telling me it's access denied. Don't worry. I'll just tell you what my question is. On page 27, the final stacked bar are your national and regional comparators. And I just wondered what that was. So I really wanted an explanation, particularly because you've got a number of dimensions. You've got good housing, the green agenda, you've got an enterprising economy, and you've got healthy communities. So the idea of lumping them all together and somehow saying all those dimensions are equal, and so having this, I might be completely wrong, but having this kind of growth indicator, which is supposed to put them all together and show where we are in relation to the region and nationally. I didn't get that. It seemed a very odd thing to do. So I hope that makes sense to you.
Am I okay to come in there, Chair? So on your first point, Polly, yes, the quarter by quarter, you're absolutely right. It's not something that I've reflected on before. I mean, listen to what you just said. It is right, because there are more than one indicator where often quarter one performance is lower than where it ends up for various reasons. I mean, you know, even the needs is affected by that in terms of the end of the academic year, and the fact that more people then come in that vacuum of, you know, if they've not got an opportunity in education or training. So, yeah, I mean, it's something we could look at in terms of, and I suppose we're going to have to go away and have to think about it. We can set targets, all we want annual targets, but if you're setting quarterly targets and you know there's a trend, do you adjust your quarterly targets accordingly, even though you still keep your ambition of over the year performing in exactly the same way as you have been doing? So I think that's certainly something we can look at, and then at least it gives us a more realistic target, quarter by quarter, rather than something you know you're going to fail or something you know you're going to exceed. So we can certainly look at that. In relation to page 27, national comparators, I'm going to moderately duck this one and have to see if Caroline's got an answer, because I must admit, looking at it, I'm the same as you, Councillor. I just looked at it and thought, actually, I'm not sure what it's telling us. So sorry, Caroline.
That's fine, I'm happy to come in. So the graph in terms of national and regional comparators is basically just a summary to say of the indicators in the dashboard where we're able to compare to national or regional data. That is the status of those indicators in terms of obviously whether we are obviously favourably, you know, compared to our comparators, or whether we're not doing particularly well. But it probably does need a bit of an explanation in terms of what that is showing. But that's what it is. It's just basically a summary to say of the indicators where we are comparing ourselves to national or regional data. This is the status of those indicators. Does that make sense?
Can I come back in, or I don't know if the protocol, am I okay to come back in?
Yeah, feel free, thank you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask Caroline. It still seems really weird because the dimensions of the indicators are so different. You know, as I say, healthy communities and the green agenda, what do they have in common? How can you? I would like, it might be that if you put an explanation in there, that it will all make sense to me, but just from what you've said, I don't get it. Thank you.
Happy to take on your feedback and make sure that we put an explanation in there and have a look at that.
Thank you, Councillor McGovern there. Just a few questions from myself, if that's okay. So just on agenda page 31, the weekly food waste collections, just wanted to ask, what are the risks what risks are there in obviously meeting the statutory April 26 deadline, firstly, and secondly, in terms of the communication plans, obviously April 2026 is coming up close, it's not far away, so in terms of residents and getting that communication out there, what are the plans in order to get that communication out there, make sure it's all ready to go for April?
Sorry, Councillor Singh, I was talking away to myself there. I realised I was muted. In terms of the risks of in the food collection, there's a number. There's first of all, there's a financial one. To date, I'm not sure we're still being given clarity over the fact that the full amount of funding is actually being will be covered at central government level to actually pay for the full implementation of the scheme. There's then the risk, there's then the issue of compliance and the fact that people actually engage in it and actually do use the receptacles, as it were, the caddies they're going to get for food collection. And then that links to the comms, what you just said, Councillor Singh, absolutely right about comms. It's important that we're very, very clear. We do have we've already had discussions about comms on this and the fact that we need clarity and we need it very early. And it needs to be repeated because the more you get the message out, the more likely you are to have compliance, the more likely you are to answer any questions or concerns in advance rather than people suddenly being faced with this new system, not really knowing what's going on, therefore getting frustrated or angry. So it is a challenge. Any change to people's habits, any change to people's way of doing things is a significant undertaking. And I'm certainly under no illusion, and I know the council alone isn't either, nor are our officers at the scale of the challenge. What will help is that other authorities will be doing the same. So obviously that'll be of assistance. But as I say, there's financial issues, there is comms issues, there's reputational issues. So there's a number of potential problems that we've got to overcome. But I do believe, in fairness to our officer team, that very, very early on they were seeking to be ahead of the curve on this. I think we had a paper come to the last council or cabinet, I can't remember, about last council about in relation to the Yarrow and the depot. We've had more approvals for making sure we've got the wagons in place and making sure that we actually able to roll this out straight away. So I do believe that we are doing a lot of work on it, but there's a lot more to do.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wilson. Obviously do second you there. Obviously it is a challenge, no shadow of a doubt. But just obviously if we can push out any communication to residents, if we can make sure it's clear, like you said, repetitive, just make sure we get the message out there, because not everybody will pick up that message the first time, unfortunately. Councillor Hayden, you got a question, have you?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. On the empty properties, this year I think was the first, well last year, sorry, was when the council tax was put up for certain types of properties to try and encourage people to shift them, you know, instead of leaving them. So it would be useful to know if we feel that that did make some progress towards those targets or not. Any comments on that?
No, I totally agree, Councillor Hayden. I think actually to see if there's any direct correlation between those increased rates, because of course it's after so many years, isn't it? After a year it's 100%, after a couple of years it's 200%, I think it's after 5 years.
Yeah.
300. So it will have to go with more than about 5 years, because we've probably not hit that yet. In most cases there might be 1 or 2. But yeah, you're right. If we've got some clear evidence that's having a tangible impact, then obviously it's a good thing. But as yet, I suspect we're probably still relatively early days.
Okay. And the other point was about the food waste. No, sorry, not the food waste, the recycling. I remember a few years ago, I'm not sure how long ago, but the refuse collectors used to actually check the bins to see if any residents were, putting the stuff in the wrong bins or whatever, or deliberately not recycling. And the council would write to them and ask them why they didn't do that. So I just wondered whether or not the refuse collectors actually pay any attention to what they're collecting.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's probably impossible to check everyone's electric at least occasionally, but I will ask that of our street team, Councillor Hayden.
Thank you.
protocols are in relation to that.
Okay, and just another comment regarding the bus shelters. They do look very nice, I must admit, but unfortunately now they're getting a bit dirty. They need cleaning, and I wondered whether or not there was a maintenance schedule in place to keep them looking as good as what they were when they were actually put in.
Yeah, no, you're right. They get dirty very quickly, don't they? I would expect there would be something. And again, but I'm not. I can find the detail and make sure.
Yeah, I know Adrian's not here, but
yeah, no, it's
just to answer those questions.
Yeah, it affects us also. Yeah, on the plans.
Thank you. That's all from me on those topics, anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden, for them. Definitely agree with you there. Obviously, the recycling, even if we can do just random spot checks on certain bins, then we can push that recycling, and then the maintenance of the bus shelters, definitely a key point there, to which obviously we'll get officers and councillors to come back to us on that one. Just a final quick one from me. Obviously, we know in Chorley small businesses are key. Small businesses, we want them in Chorley. We want them to expand, to become established. So in terms of this supplier payments on page 48, what steps are we taking to ensure that obviously these small businesses, which are trying to grow, trying to become more established, that they're not financially disadvantaged? And I understand obviously the majority of payments are being paid quicker than 30 days, but just want to make sure that we protect the small businesses in Chorley.
Absolutely right, Councillor. I think it's, more from just from a fairness point of view, it's only right that we pay our invoices. But you're right, particularly where you've got local businesses, small businesses operating who cash flow is also a significant challenge. You'd also be facing long delays for the work. As I say, the vast majority are paid quickly. And even the target there, we are only just slightly off the 95%, is quite rightly a high target. And I say quite rightly for the reason you just said, Councillor Singh. So I know that the Director of Finance and his team are working very hard. This is something we were actually performing even worse on at one point, so it has improved. And they are working very hard with each directorate to make sure that we are on top of this. As I say, though, just with the caveat, there are times when it is legitimate that an invoice isn't paid, or is queried, or for some reason there's a slight delay. That will always be the case on some invoices, particularly if work's not being done properly or what's being delivered hasn't been delivered inadequately. So the perhaps always one of us outliers, but you are right, it is important we do it. That's no Director of Finance is particularly keen to ensure that we're hitting that target regularly every quarter.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for that. Appreciate that one there. So obviously, thank you, Councillor Wilson, for presenting that report. Appreciate that one. So the decision there is just to note and thank everybody for their attendance on that report. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, business plan project Q1 update, pages 49 to 74. Executive Member for Resources will present this report, supported by Councillor Murray, and so thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much again. So the purpose of the report is to look at the business plan. And as we say, this is the update monitoring report. So the business plan session was delivered in February this year, and we engaged staff across all services to capture the key activities that go beyond the core business as usual of the council. So the report said basically is making good progress as of Q1 on delivery of those service level projects, which are outlined in the business plans for 25 to 26. So in summary, Chair, we can see that of the 15 business plans, which cover 72 projects, we currently have 58 projects which are rated green, in other words, on track, as we know. There are 6 projects rated blue, which have already been completed, 3 that are rated as amber, none that are rated red, which is obviously a good thing, and there are 5 projects which, as yet, haven't started their waiting start dates. So just to cover a couple of those that have been completed, things such as the Gloucestershire County Council elections, the community support review, that's been carried out, and that's actually looking at supporting communities who have delivered benefits, debt advice, food, well-being, parenting support, strong volunteer engagement. So there's things there on the ground that we've been doing and completed. The pre-application process is going to be introduced. It's something we used to do at Chorley Council, then we stopped, so that's been brought back in. And then there are other schemes as well related to financial and sort of reporting systems and so on. So it's overall obviously positive that we've completed those, but more importantly, it's about making progress with the ones that are green and the ones that are amber, picking those up. So again, there's 58 projects there rated as green. I don't intend going through them all. More than happy to discuss anything that anyone's particular concern or question about. The 3 amber projects, which are included on the report, the review of cemetery system, the verification of corporate risks, and job shadowing programme. Now, all are rated amber at the minute. They've all experienced small delays, but again, we all need to make sure that we bring all those projects back on track, mainly being delayed with issues such as personnel changes, or there's been slight delays in relying on external providers to assistance. So I'm confident we'll get those back on track. So overall, as of Q1, things are very much on track, and that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for presenting that report. Again, thank you to Caroline and Jennifer for supporting and being in attendance as well for this report. I now invite councillors to ask any questions. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Initially more of a comment. What a fantastic report. Great progress across virtually all areas. So there's not much to pick out from this one, is there? So really well done to everybody on this. I think the only thing for me, only because I don't really understand what the review is around the cemetery system or what are the risks around it, but I note that it is only amber, it's not actually in red now. So are there any particular risks that we should be aware of?
In terms of the review, basically it's rated as amber because, again, we've been relying on an external provider. So we're now looking at different solutions to that. So we're hoping that perhaps our current website provider, they have been evaluating basically their suitability to undertake work. So hopefully it'll all be sorted. That's just a straw note that I've been given, Councillor Brown. If you need more, then I'm happy to go away and ask further questions.
That's fine, thank you. Maybe if it goes red.
Well, quite. If it goes red,
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just one point. No, Peter. In terms of the development and implement of the cybersecurity plan, I notice that's now green. So that's positive. I know it's something I've raised on a number of occasions. So yeah, it's nice to see that. And obviously, given the circumstances, Marks and Spencers and Jaguar and all that sort of stuff, it's a key issue. So I was pleased to see that that's now in the green.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, thank you for that. Definitely second the comments made. I think it is a great report, and it obviously does highlight Chorley is on the right tracks, and it does reflect really well on Chorley and the officers. And thank you for everything that the officers are doing a great job. Just a generic question on my behalf, not in relation to anything in particular and project-wise, but just based on these business plan projects, is there anything that you can see where it is going to forecast like a bit of an overspend due to like inflation or some subcontractor costs or supply chain issues? Is there anything you need to highlight in advance or anything?
I would probably say, Chair, that at the minute it's too early to tell. If there are areas even where there's some concern, as I say, we've only been in Q1. Obviously, we've got time to, to bring it around and find out on our financial footing. There's nothing at the minute. There's nothing being raised, or rephrase that. There's nothing being raised with me as the executive member of resources where there's a cause for alarm or problem in terms of being thrown completely off track on a financial level.
No, that's okay. No problem there. That's nice to know there's no issues there. It's all good. Any questions from anybody online? Councillor McGovern, Councillor Hayden, anything?
Arjun, if it's okay to come in. It's going back to the other report. I'm sorry, I just had a thought then about the needs, whether or not it could actually go to the overview and scrutiny work programme as an area that we may possibly choose to look at in the future on a task brief, something like that.
No, happy with that suggestion. It is a good suggestion, and obviously, if we look at it in a task group, if there's anything we can do to help, that would be great. So if we can make a note of that, Claire, that would be good. Anybody else got any questions? Anything? No, that's okay. So obviously, the decision there is to note the report, and thank you everybody for your attendance on there, the executive members and the officers. So last item on the agenda is the date of the next meeting, which will be Thursday the 4th of December 2025 at 6:30. So thank you for attending, and I now announce this meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.